Hulk has always been a monster among men in the Marvel Universe. He has always been scorned, he has always been hated, and almost all the time, even in recent continuity, you'll catch him being chased by his friends, the Avengers, or by S.H.I.E.L.D. or Agent Ross. And I think Hulk is one of those characters that often gets pushed to the side when he's in an Avengers show. But I think EMH does a wonderful job of putting him at the forefront and talking about him. And if you know anything about my channel, then you know I have a special relationship to Hulk when it comes to talking about him, as he's been the focal point of some of my larger videos. And EMH does one of the best interpretations of Hulk I think I've seen in a long time, especially in an Avengers setting. Without further ado, let's get into it. Hulk's very first arc in the early season is the idea that Hulk is far more than just some hulking monster that is out for want and destruction. Bruce has really been sort of tapping into his Hulk side as of recent and trying to understand the big green guy, as Hulk and Bruce Banner are almost two separate personalities that simply share a body. And so among this journey of Bruce trying to understand the Hulk and believing that he can do some good, he ends up running into and tracking down villains that were captured in the cube, attempting to understand why they were being experimented on, and his first stop is with Absorbing Man.
The cube is a supervillain prison specializing in subjects that have been exposed to radiation, which created monsters from men. Dangerous abominations. You were there.
But as the conversation goes on, Bruce digs a little bit too deep and ends up spooking Absorbing Man, essentially convincing him that he is working with S.H.I.E.L.D. or is in fact trying to capture Absorbing Man. And so in retaliation, Absorbing Man attacks, and we get to see our first Hulk transformation in this show, which is fairly grotesque and, in my opinion, one of my favorite ways of being shown how Hulk is transformed in media. It looks grotesque, it looks angry, and it looks like another personality is coming out of Bruce Banner, that being the Hulk. Even though Hulk in this show is very intelligent, he is seen by a lot of his peers to just be a mass of villainy that should only be there to be angry and attack. He's not supposed to be soft or anything of that nature.
Are you trying to be some kind of hero? Is that why you took us out here? To protect people? Well, I've got news for you, Hulk. Those people you're protecting, they think you're more of a monster than me!
Hulk himself is really trying to turn over a new leaf by the time we meet him in EMH. He wants to become a hero. He does not want to endanger civilians. He does not care for getting into scuffles that are even unnecessary in order to prevent harming people. But he's always seemingly placed in positions in which he has to, especially when General Ross is almost consistently assaulting and attacking Hulk. And even if Hulk can get the one-up on General Ross, they have involved S.H.I.E.L.D. And S.H.I.E.L.D. doesn't just want Hulk behind bars, but they want to replicate the gamma radiation Hulk is emitting and turn him into some sort of super soldier for the government. Nick Fury in this show is a pretty shady dude, hence why this happens, but we also get our first introduction to Hawkeye, someone who will be very important for Hulk in his development later. In the midst of the scuffle between Hawkeye, Black Widow, and the Hulk, General Ross decides to essentially drop a nuclear device onto said area, a gigantic missile set out to kill the Hulk, but would also kill both Hawkeye and Black Widow. And Hulk decides to just tank the blast himself. He jumps in front of it in order to avoid getting hit and having anyone else be hurt, but in the process ends up knocking Mockingbird's jet flying downwards. And Hulk, instead of escaping, goes out of his way in order to save Mockingbird. And in the process, he ends up getting himself caught by Black Widow due to the strain it put on his body to take the missile blast and to catch Mockingbird. This is like our first real chance at looking at Hulk and seeing him being a hero, where he's not being some sort of villain, he's not fighting people, he's not being a monster. we get a look at him as a hero, and then we get to hear Banner's side of the story when he's captured and being held in the cube, as Banner believes that there is a place for the Hulk, and he's not just this monstrous being. I think that's very important.
The Hulk, he's a monster, right? I mean, that's what they told us. That's what everyone thinks. Military and S.H.I.E.L.D. have been chasing him for years. He's caused untold destruction. He's a monster.
What do you think?
Why did the Hulk save that ship? He could have just escaped. I saw it. He had a way out, but he saved my crew instead. Why?
You're a S.H.I.E.L.D. agent, right?
Yeah? So?
Maybe the question you should be asking is what S.H.I.E.L.D. and the Hulkbusters want the Hulk for. Open your eyes. Look around this place. Look at the monsters here. Do you really think the cube is a jail?
It's really Bruce Banner and his belief in his other personality being the Hulk that really pushes Hulk towards being something more than what he is. Pushes him far away from just wanting to be alone and be by himself into wanting to become a hero, much like the Avengers that are surrounding him in this universe. And even when Bruce is locked up and is being experimented on, he still tries his best to convince those around him that the Hulk is someone to be fought for. He is a force for good. And he even tries to convince Samson that maybe S.H.I.E.L.D. isn't exactly on the up and up when it comes to the experiments they're running here. But that is all cut short when Graviton wakes up from his cell and ends up sparking an entire breakout of every single prison S.H.I.E.L.D. is holding. And in the process, he not only breaks out Hulk and breaks Samson out of this sort of area, but unintentionally gifts Samson with gamma irradiated cells, giving him powers similar to the Hulk, but not on the exact same level. But in the process, he not only exhausts himself, but ends up getting taken out by one of Hulk's foes who stay in the cube. And this prompts Hulk to decide to come out and play, coming out of Banner's body once more, and deciding to help and protect Samson by saving his life from Zack's Abomination and the Absorbing Man. Hulk decides not only to save him, but to take him somewhere he will be safe. So Hulk takes him to his favorite diner out in the Mojave. And in the process of dropping Samson off, Hulk ends up intercepting a live TV broadcast of Graviton attacking New York, and in the process, Hulk seemingly has a discussion with himself. And I think that's something that was really great that this show did, and I wish it did more often, was showing that Hulk and Bruce Banner have an inner dialogue with each other on a semi-regular basis.
You could help.
What do you want?
You could make a difference. You could save Thor, just like you saved Samson in the cube.
Funny. I don't remember Thor ever coming to save me.
If you help, it will help us. If you stand by other heroes, if you save lives, people will begin to see that the Hulk isn't a monster, that you can be a force for good.
Hulk reluctantly agrees to Banner's plan, but under one condition, that Hulk would be running their body from now on, that Hulk would be the dominant personality, and Bruce Banner would have to be the one trapped inside his mind for a majority of the time. And Bruce agrees to this. Bruce gives up all of his freedom, all of his life, essentially, in order to prove that the Hulk isn't some savage monster. And so when Hulk does get this green light from Bruce, his first instinct is to go straight after Graviton. He decides that he will take Bruce's advice and join the fellow heroes fighting. And even when Hulk is fighting alongside them, he doesn't really feel like he is a part of this group, that he's a part of something larger. He feels outcasted and ostracized, but all it takes is for one of the Avengers, that being Janet Van Dyne, to hype Hulk up a little bit and sort of give him the idea that maybe he isn't alone in all of this and that he has support from the other Avengers.
You're helping me.
Yeah, now hit him.
It's this seemingly innocuous moment for Janet Van Dyne that to Hulk is a truly huge thing. He's never ever had anybody willing to help him outside of Rick Jones, who we don't see in this first season. And I think it's a big part of the reason that Hulk decides to stick with the Avengers outside of Bruce Banner and the deal he made. As a matter of fact, this is the first time we'll see the Avengers together in their sort of comic accurate group that shows up. And I think it's really interesting that they went with this comic accurate group, as I had stated previously in my Ant-Man video. And I think it's a wonderful group to start with, especially because Hulk almost takes a back seat, especially later in this first season. But the first couple episodes we get of him are extremely well done and well crafted, as he feels like the centerpiece and the focal point of a few of these episodes. But unfortunately, not everything is perfect. You see, Hulk still feels some sort of self-doubt with trying to be this hero. He almost defaults into this angry, I hate everyone, I want to be alone mindset when he fails to remind himself that he is surrounded by friends, especially at the brand new, newly minted Avengers Mansion. But Hulk's propensity towards his angry outbursts and just sheer distrust of other people, it is warranted for the record, but his distrust leads towards easy manipulation and makes him an easy target for Amora the Enchantress to mess with in order to turn Hulk against all of his allies and friends in the Avengers.
They don't trust you. These Avengers, once they're done using you, they'll lock you up too.
This was your idea.
Things have changed.
Amora takes advantage of the fact that Hulk and Bruce Banner can often have a dialogue with each other and uses that against him in order to try and turn the Hulk against his friends, to essentially plant the seeds that, hey, these guys don't want you here, they see you as a monster. And it doesn't help that Hulk and Thor often butt heads already to begin with, as those two are very far opposite of each other on the spectrum of being a hero, with Hulk being far more brash and Thor, surprisingly, being more calculated despite everything. And this tension between both Hulk and Thor tends to boil over, especially in these early episodes, as the two of them continuously butt heads, not only when trying to figure out who to take on first out of the escaped villains from all of the prisons, but also later thanks to a little bit more manipulation from Amora the Enchantress. Amora continues to use her ability to shapeshift in order to antagonize Bruce, i.e. the Hulk, and sort of egg him on to fighting people like Thor. Bruce becomes less like himself in egging on the Hulk's more violent tendencies and getting him to argue more with his companions. Now, Hulk is kind of well intelligent in this show, a little bit of a knucklehead. Dude tends to fall for these manipulations fairly easily. And when Hulk does decide to finally go try and cool off, he ends up scaring a bunch of civilians throughout New York as he's just kind of walking around. And of course, Amora doesn't want this to be how it ends, instead using her abilities to shapeshift into Thor in order to egg the two on into fighting. And Amora gets exactly what she wants. She successfully eggs Hulk on into fighting the Avengers, and in the process leaving his mind wide open for easy manipulation by her. That not only eggs the fight further, but is able to ground it and make it even more difficult for Hulk to stop fighting his friends. And I think this is a very interesting episode to show that Hulk is far from perfect. Even though he is trying to be this hero, he is still prone towards his natural outbursts. It's almost as though he is having to fight against his urges in order to just not hurt his friends. Even Janet Van Dyne, who he really viewed as one of his close allies. As a matter of fact, it is him hurting Janet that sort of snaps him out of Amora's mind control, as Janet was the first person in the Avengers to see Hulk for more than what he was as a monster. And so Hulk takes to running away like he is used to to going back to being self-isolated, so he can no longer do damage to the Avengers or to anybody else by him being there.
You have to go back. Someone is manipulating you. They wanted you to fight the Avengers. You have to go back and make sure they're okay.
Everything you said was true. I am a monster.
It's only true if you let it be. Walk away now, and it will be.
So Hulk, despite everything, decides to go back and help the Avengers because he does not want to be that monster he is portrayed as, and it's Hulk coming back and intervening that truly turns the tide for the Avengers against Amora the Enchantress and her bodyguard, Scourge the Executioner. Now, when Hulk does come back, Amora does once again try to mind control him, but this time it simply doesn't work, mainly because Hulk knows it's manipulation, and Hulk knows that he is far more than that monster that she whispers in his ear to be. He is sort of coming into his own in understanding that he is far better than what he is being perceived as. But this doesn't change anything, and I think that's another great part of this show, is that nothing just goes back to normal after this happens. The wounds are still there from the arguments with the Avengers, and Hulk is still feeling a lot of self-doubt about himself, and so he decides to continue on his own path, going his own way, and I think that's something the show deserves a lot of praise for, which is not being afraid to change the status quo, even if it means not exactly fitting into popular format for kids television, as they often relied on toy sales back in the day to keep going. But this leads nicely into our next arc, which is Hulk and his self-loathing that's really keeping him from doing anything. The next time we see the Avengers, they've gained a couple new members. They have Captain America now, and they officially have Black Panther on roster. And what's happening is all of the villains who broke out of the cube have started to gamma irradiate the area around the cube, as the leader has this grand plan and design to turn everyone around him into a gamma irradiated monsters to make a perfect world in his own image. And of course, the Avengers do not want this to happen at all, and so they attempt to stop this by entering the gamma irradiated area and preventing the leader from being able to continue this. And honestly, they fail miserably. Not only do they get irradiated once, but they end up getting irradiated twice, as the leader had planned for this to happen, for the Avengers to intervene and enter the area, so he ends up detonating an entire gamma bomb, essentially getting everybody in that area infected with gamma radiation, turning them all into Hulk-like monsters. And by the way, some of these animations are horribly grotesque and definitely left me questioning why I was watching this show as a kid. And that does lead us with the question of, well, where the hell is Hulk? And he's been missing for quite a few episodes at this point. Well, as it turns out, Hulk is back on the countryside trying to avoid people, but General Ross is almost always on top of Hulk, trying to figure out where he is, trying to find him and capture him or kill him if he can. Now, obviously, General Ross is almost always outmanned and outgunned when it comes to fighting the Hulk, but it wouldn't hurt if Hulk had a little help, and that comes in the form of Hawkeye, Clint Barton, who ends up becoming one of Hulk's closest friends and one of my favorite dynamics in this show, as the two bounce off of each other extremely well. And Hawkeye is sort of Hulk's main supporter. Hawkeye firmly believes that Hulk is not only a hero, but is fun to be around, and the two of them enjoy each other's banter and company.
The Avengers are the ones I'm trying to save, not to mention the whole world. There's a big green energy dome, turning everyone into gamma monsters.
You want someone to fight monsters? You should ask them.
I don't need them, smart guy. And I don't need you. I need Banner.
Banner's not home. Now leave me alone.
And while Hulk's brash nature tries to overpower Clint's determination, Clint ends up making a threat that he would beat the crap out of the Hulk, causing him to laugh so hard that he turns back into Bruce Banner, who is much more willing to try and help the Avengers, as it was Bruce's idea, after all, for Hulk to join the Avengers. And while Bruce does come back out after presumably weeks of being stuck as the Hulk, his first plan and thought process is to go back and to figure out who started the gamma irradiation bomb and figure out how he's able to not only take it down, but free the rest of the Avengers who are infected, while also giving Hawkeye a cure himself. Now, when Hulk does finally come back out and they both arrive to the leader who is happening to run this gamma experiment, the leader actually offers Hulk something interesting: the opportunity to be in a world that is just like him, that understands him, and a world that would accept him if he would only just stand with the leader.
You of all people must realize this is for the best. In Gamma World, no one will hunt you. No one will try and cure you. You'll be a king. Everyone who hated you, who attacked you, they will be you. Are you really going to try and stop me?
No. Not stop you. Smash you!
But Hulk knows better than to take any sort of deal the leader was going to give him, as it probably wouldn't end up for the best for him. But not only that, but Hulk had made friends with a lot of the Avengers, even if it is just, right now, Janet Van Dyne and Hawkeye. He seems to value these friendships, and he seems to value humanity. Hulk sees the value in protecting humanity, unlike someone like the leader does. They are both scorned for their gamma radiation, and while Hulk is considered to be this evil, monstrous villain, he is oftentimes more shown protecting people, especially in this show, than doing harm. Unlike the leader, who is pursued for the same reasons, but has leaned into that sort of stereotyping that he's been given. And so Hulk, being who he is, decides to finally take away the leader's control, ripping away the gamma irradiation dome that has overtaken a lot of the Avengers and the people of New York in general, essentially deciding that it is better for them to choose for themselves instead of hunting the Hulk no longer simply because they are all irradiated gamma beasts just like him. And even at the end of all of this, Hulk decides to stay with the Avengers on one condition.
Will you walk away as well? You are indeed a noble warrior, Hulk. One who has saved the Avengers and now helped save the world. I would trust you with my life. Will you trust us? I'll stay if Cupid stays.
You wanna go, J-Jaws? Right here and now? Let's do this!
And the Avengers eventually do learn to embrace Hulk, and I think this is really well shown in the episode in which Hydra is creating the Cosmic Cube, a device that is going to grant them one wish, and of course Hydra wants to use said one wish in order to win World War II and bring their dominance to light. And during this, of course, Hydra is on a full-scale assault of New York, and Captain America takes Hulk under his wing for the two of them to work together, and we get a really sweet heart-to-heart that, if you've seen my Captain America video, you'll recognize.
Lucky shot.
If you say so, big guy. Now remember, watch out for civilians.
Is that why you teamed up with me? To protect people from the monster?
Stow that talk. I want you to protect civilians from Hydra. They're the monsters here, not you. In my day, we had a name for someone like you.
Yeah? What's that?
Hero. I've been watching you, Hulk. No matter how scared people are of you, no matter how much you're hounded, you always do the right thing. And that makes you a hero in my book.
And as innocuous as it seems, I believe from that moment forward, Hulk views himself as a true hero. His arc is pretty much complete by this point, as he is viewing himself as a hero. He is viewed in the public as a hero. And that just leaves one more major storytelling point to go over, and that is when the Avengers are trying to stop Loki's plot to take control of the 9 realms. And that starts with trying to stop Amora from opening a portal to every realm on Earth. And as Hulk is tasked with defeating the Executioner in order to stop this, Ultimately and unfortunately, all of the Avengers fail in stopping the opening of all the portals around the world, and Loki's plot is coming to fruition. His want and desire to control all 9 realms while taking the Odin Force away from Odin and claiming ultimate power for himself. Hulk finds himself in Asgard and finds himself with the Executioner's battle axe, and of course, as the Asgardians are being escorted on their way by ogres to become slaves, Hulk doesn't exactly take too kindly to this and goes far out of his way in order to help the Asgardians, seeming happy to do so despite his usual angry face. And upon fighting the ogres, and of course winning, as this is Hulk we're talking about, he wasn't going to lose to some ogres, we get this really funny piece of dialogue coming from one of Thor's friends.
Truly, you possess the gift of battle. I am Volstagg the Voluminous, and with your strength, Emerald One, we can take back Asgard this day.
And with that, of course, the Avengers unite, all in an attempt to fight a giant ice wolf and make their way straight to Loki, all with the help of Captain America as he gets back from Niflheim, the land of the dishonored dead, which I kind of missed in my Captain America video, my bad, but you know, we'll correct it in this one. And of course, as per usual at the end of these videos, Loki is stalled for long enough so that Odin wakes up, reclaims the Odin Force, and banishes Loki to a land befitting of his desired tortures, which is honestly terrible where he ends up, but well deserved at this point. And then the Avengers are all congratulated and recognized for their deeds in not only saving Asgard, but saving all of the 9 realms by Odin and Thor. And I think at the end of all of this, Hulk gets out of these experiences what he was looking for. Hulk is recognized as a true hero. He is surrounded by friends that he considers family, and he's finally found a balance between himself and Bruce Banner. They finally found an understanding for each other, and he finally gets that peaceful end he's been looking for since the start of this first season.
Too bad. I can't believe you, Banner. You get to come out and play one day a month. The one day the Hulk actually lets you come out, and you want to do this?
Yeah. You have no idea what it's like inside the Hulk's head. No idea what I'm giving up to prove the Hulk can be a force for good. So, I'm taking the day for me.
Now, if you've been with the channel long enough, you guys know just how much I love Hulk as a character. I made my first 3 videos on this whole talking about, analyzing, video essay stuff, whatever you want to call it. I made 3 whole episodes essentially surrounding him, or at least including him. And those first 3 were a trip for me. I got to go back and watch some of my favorite cartoons and movies from my childhood, and I got to talk about Hulk, who in my opinion is one of the most interesting characters to make a video essay on, as Hulk is sort of written differently and acted differently in every single interpretation that I've read him with. Now, he has his baseline stature of being a very angry man who wants to seek redemption, but it's done in many different interesting and varying ways throughout the different medias he's portrayed. And I think that's my favorite part about talking about Hulk. Now, if you've made it this far and all the way to the end, why don't you comment your favorite version of Hulk down in the comments? That would be really awesome. If you liked the video, give it a like. If you disliked the video, that's perfectly fine. Give it a dislike and let me know what you would have changed. As well, I just want to thank you all. We just hit 3,000 subscribers, and if you had told me literally 2-3 weeks ago that I would have gone from 800 to 3,000 subs in the matter of under a month, that I probably would have laughed. This has been amazing, and I can't thank you all enough, as you guys are the ones that have made it possible for me to continue making videos. So I'm going to try and give you as many videos as soon as I can, while also trying to maintain my standard of quality. And of course, as always, a special shout out to my patrons, those being MC Bomb 27 and David Gomez, who are in the $5 tier and get shouted out at the end of every single video. And of course, shout out to you all, the audience, for watching. Couldn't do this without you guys. So once again, thank you all so much.